Okay, so for this one right here, we're taking a look at basically how am I going to find some unknown angles. So we looked at using trigonometry to find sides, but what we're doing is that we are going to introduce these inverses right here, okay? So basically, and there's really just an understanding in this video right here, is that if I had the sine of theta, which is going to be opposite over hypotenuse, and I knew what A and C are going to be, what the inverse does is that it says theta, okay, is going to go ahead and equal the inverse of A divided by C. Okay, so we know it's an inverse when it has that little -1 on there, just like we may have seen with the inverses a little bit earlier on in the course, but right now we're just taking a look at sine, cosine, and tangent. So it's going to kick out an angle. So anytime that you use the inverse sine, inverse cosine, or the inverse tangent, it gives you the angle. And so basically it's going to say for each one of these, if you want the words to go along with it, it says find the angle whose, when I take the sine of AC, it's basically going to give me that angle. So find the angle whose cosine, okay, is B divided by C, and find the angle whose tangent is A divided by B. Okay, and when I say whose tangent, that's going to be the ratio of the sides. So that said, let's take a look at how we can use this to our advantage. Okay, so we have some angles here, and let's solve for, let's say, x first. Okay, so for x, I don't know what the angular measure is going to go ahead and be, but I do have two known angles. So the two known angles from x's perspective are going to be an adjacent and a hypotenuse. Okay, so we know that adjacent and hypotenuse is going to be cosine. So if I were to say the cosine of x equals adjacent 22 over the hypotenuse 31, and I wanted to solve for x, what I can do is say x equals the inverse cosine of 22 divided by 31. Okay, so give me the angle whose cosine ratio of the sides is going to be 22 divided by 31. So I plug that into my calculator, and oftentimes, just a real quick note, that you have to use like the shift button, and it's usually above the regular cosine button on your graphing calculator, and then it will bring up cosine to the -1 power, the inverse cosine. So just make sure that you're using the correct one. So that answer is going to give me 44.79 degrees. Okay, so that is what x is going to be. And we could find out using the triangle sum theorem what y is going to be, but again, since this is a trigonometric video, let's use trigonometry to knock this thing out. Okay, so I'm sorry, what y is going to be. I think I misspoke earlier. But anyhow, this business of y, okay, let's take a look at what we got from there. And this is going to give us, we're trying to use our known sides to knock this thing out. And so we have an opposite and we have a hypotenuse here. Okay, and we know opposite and hypotenuse is going to be a sine function. And so we would have sine of x equals 22 opposite over hypotenuse, which is going to be 31. To solve, we would go x equals the inverse sine of 22 divided by 31, which is going to approximately give me 45.21 degrees. Okay, and so I would write 45.21 degrees right here. So a way that we can see if we've done this correct is that we could add all of these up, okay, to see if it equals 180 degrees. So if I got those two, which I add those are going to be 90 plus 90 more, that's going to give me 180 degrees. So I know that I've done my calculations correctly. So we can also take a look at a way that we can solve some word problems here. And basically, this is a hamster who's going to drive up a 1,027-foot hill that has a constant slope. And when the hamster reaches the top of the hill, he has traveled a horizontal distance of 990 feet. At what angle did the hamster have to drive to reach the top? So we're going after W, okay? And we're going after W, and it looks like we're going to be using the adjacent side, and we're going to be using the hypotenuse again. So, knocking this thing out, we would have the cosine of W equals the adjacent, this guy right here, over the hypotenuse. Solving like we did the last problems on the left-hand side here, W equals the inverse cosine of 990 over 1027, and W is going to equal, looks like approximately 15.4, it says to the round your answer to the nearest degree. So we got 15.4, so the nearest degree is just going to be 15 degrees there, okay? So it looks like that little hamster dude was going up that hill at about a 15-degree angle, okay? So that's how you do that. And in the next video, we're going to take a look at putting all the pieces together and solving the entire thing.